What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Dissect That Film, where we dissect your favorite films, film franchises, and TV. Today, on episode 76 of the podcast, we are talking about The House of the Devil, an early film from, I would say, director of the year, Ty West, the man behind X and Pearl. I am your host, Brett Parker. Joining me is the wonderful Dan and Angela of DNA Gaming. They're down here today because we have a guest, guys. And our guest is the wonderful Dustin of the Barrens Hideout podcast, one of my favorite podcasts right now. It's fantastic. Dustin, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's always fun doing, going on other people's podcasts when I don't have to worry about asking questions or bringing too many notes because I rely on you to do that.
Absolutely. That is the best thing about guesting on other people's shows. You don't have to do any of the work other than watch the movie, hopefully.
Yep. Yep.
Or just being the co-host on this show. We're just parasites. I am. I can't speak for
Angela
you.
takes notes. She does work.
I am a parasite. 100%.
It's this time.
I do research stuff. I'm a parasite.
All I have to say is I didn't say it before we started recording, but Angela, I love your shirt. And Dustin, I love your shirt. Yours is okay, Dan.
I tried to find another
just
one.
Just tell Adam that. Just say, I hope Adam listens to the show so he goes, son of a bitch.
Oh, he won't listen to this.
No, it's okay. I love Remember the Game. It's literally the only gaming podcast I listen to. It's Remember the Game. So, but I love it. But The House of the Devil from 2009. Dustin, you picked this one because we're letting our guests pick our the horror films for the next however long we decide to do this for. Dustin, why did you pick this movie? And then we'll go into our introduction to who you are and what you do.
All right. So this movie, I saw this before Joe Bob did it on Shudder with Joe Bob's Last Drive-In. This was a movie I saw probably about 2015, I want to say, and I fell in love with the atmosphere so much, and I love how this movie, it sort of is a solo performance if you really think about it. Jocelyn Donahue does an amazing job. And also the feel of it being 80s, but it's not, because Ty West loves to do that type of thing of, kind of getting you in the headset of that time period, and also being during like the Satanic Panic, which, is something that a lot of movies nowadays are kind of touching on again. Like you got movies like Revealer that are also doing that. But this is a movie that I just fell in love with. It feels like fall, even though it's in the winter. It's beautiful, the house and how it's lit all the time from like the outside. It looks amazing, and all the performances. I mean, and you have like a stunner cast. You have like Dee Wallace in there. You got Tom Newman. I mean, like Ullman. Sorry, no Newman. I'm sorry.
No,
right.
Noonan. Yeah,
and
Newman,
and so many other people. And this is a very early film from Ty West. It's very early. He hasn't really done much before this. And then you see him now and how much he's grown. It's just a film that I never get tired of. And I thought this would be an awesome one to talk about during Halloween.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a first. This was the first time I ever saw this movie. Was this the first time for you guys too?
Yes, sir.
So it's awesome that you brought us a movie that none of us had seen yet. So I love going into a movie where I don't know what to expect. But before we get into our thoughts about this movie, Dustin, who are you and what is your show, and like what do you talk about on that show? Who are you?
I'm an alien. I came from Mars. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh shit! Hell yeah!
So, I'm one of the co-hosts and creator of the Barrens Hideout podcast. It's only been going for about a little over a year and a half. It was a pandemic podcast, and I've gone through 2 co-hosts. I'm on my second one right now, mainly because my first one, Aaron, for anybody who has listened to it before, and you guys know Aaron, he kind of cut off to go pursue his own little passion and get into cooking. He works in the kitchen, so he does that. But our very first guest, all the way from the UK, Dean of the Dead, who does hot sauces and beers and a bunch of other crazy stuff. I've gotten really close to him, and he's like my brother from across the pond. And I was doing a podcast with him that was his own, and he just couldn't find time for it. He only put out 3 episodes in a year. So, he was working a lot. And so I just asked him to join to come fill up Aaron's spot. And he's been with us for about 3 months, and shit's going nuts, man. It's going crazy. I introduced a new segment earlier this year before Dean hopped on, which was Within the Barrens, which is our interview, series on the show. And then we also do movie reviews. So we are doing a lot, and we're building a lot of really good friendships right now, especially all the people over at Screenbox. They've been super duper great to us, and they're giving us a lot of push and helping us. And while I'm also trying to help everybody else in the podcast community, like Brett, Dan, and Angela over here at Dissect That Film, and everybody else, I really just want to share the love with everybody. I always try to push this and let people know that being in a podcast, regardless of how big you are or how small you are, you need to know that there are people out there who want to be supportive of you, and that's what I like to do, is to be as supportive as I can. And I love listening to your show. And like I said before, I have missed a couple episodes, and I always feel bad about that.
Never feel bad. Never feel bad.
But
to be
just
honest, in the
knowing
last
that,
couple of weeks, we put out I think we put out 6 things. So I'm just like, yeah, I know, it's okay.
yeah,
I'm not even
and
caught up on our own show. So
yeah, and that's another thing. Is like there's so much stuff coming out, and it's good to have all these podcasts doing these things, because you have somebody that covers one thing that another one doesn't, so you can kind of go and support everybody as much as possible. And it's just been a great journey. And after having you on early this year, Brett, and we talked about Child's Play, that was super duper fun. And thank you for inviting me on to talk about one of my favorite movies, and just kind of spread the love with the horror and podcast community.
Absolutely. You run a great show over there, and the fact that like what you've been doing the last few months, bringing all these people in from these movies and doing these crazy interviews, and I'm like, holy crap. It's just it's more of just being proud, like to be able to know someone who's doing those things. I think it's like, holy crap, I have the potential of doing it, but like you're doing it, and you're doing a great job at it. Every single time I listen to those interviews, I mean, that's pretty much what you've been doing lately, is the interviews, and they've all been spectacular. Like the fact that like none of the guests seem like they're uncomfortable. They all seem very at home with your, like they seem like you've known them for a while, which is like insane. Like I said, off before we started recording, you had just interviewed the director and the lead star of Terrifier 2, which is like the big horror film right now. Like people are going crazy for it. And the fact, like, and I had listened to your interview with, who is the actor who plays Art?
David Howard Thornton.
David Howard Thornton. Yeah, I listened to your interview with him before, when you interviewed him, kind of just
earlier this year
with him. Yeah, and it was awesome. Like he's a great interview, and it seemed like you guys were friends, and that's how it should be. Like it shouldn't just be that generic interview where you're asking the generic questions. You're just having a conversation, and that's great. Hopefully one day we'll be able to do that.
Hey man,
bring some people on. So
I would love to help you guys out as much as possible. And as we're recording this, I also just dropped on Patreon our interview with Lauren Lavera, who is Sienna in Terrifier 2.
Yeah, the final girl of Terrifier 2. You guys are just killing it over there. I'm really proud of you guys and what you guys have been doing. You're also a fellow masshole. You live
I am
from my side of town. I mean, you're on the opposite side of the state, but we're homies,
Yeah.
Dan and Angela are down there in that southern state. We don't need to talk about it.
Wow.
Let's talk shit.
I got no problems with where I'm at.
I don't either. I'm good.
Same.
Nothing wrong with that. Good.
But today we're talking about House of the Devil. And
yes, we are.
Let's go around the room. We're going to start with our guest on what they thought of the movie. We'll talk about our thoughts, and then we'll talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff and actors and budget and all that stuff that we usually do. So, Dustin, what are your thoughts of this movie after your latest viewing?
Oh man. All right. So I don't want to go too heavily into spoilers as of right now because I want to listen to everybody else and what they think. But I've seen this movie, I have to say at least 20 plus times. Never gets old. Never ever gets old. I watch it multiple times a year, not just during Halloween, and it always gives me that feeling of it's spooky time, regardless of what time of year it is. I just love how everything feels like a character in this movie. The house feels like a character. Like the outside world, the cars feel like a character. The food is a character with how Samantha and Megan kind of react to every time they eat something. They're like, "Oh, this isn't good." And also how it's all framed back in a satanic panic in the 80s, and all that mass hysteria that was going around of people like, "Oh, there's religious cults everywhere, and there's a full moon." And this deals with Night of there's a comet. And another one of my favorite movies is Night of the Comet. And Mary, who plays Mrs. Ullman, was actually in Night of the Comet, which was really, really funny knowing that she's in another movie that deals with a comet. Um, it's just a really fun movie, and it has a great atmosphere. Some people say it's too slow, it's not entertaining. I disagree. I think this has great pacing. Everybody who's in it really does a great job, and really following Samantha throughout this whole journey and seeing it through her eyes, and also feeling like it going crazy, like she feels like she's going crazy, and then her being lied to and whatnot. It's just a great film, and for anybody who has been putting it off, I think you need to at least watch it once, because I think after hearing what I'm saying, hopefully it'll turn you to liking this film because I love it.
All right, Dustin, don't get offended. Dan's about to say something, and it might
Hey,
not be,
that's
you
fine.
might not like it, but you know how this show works. We all have differing
Hey,
opinions.
we all have
And
our own opinions. I'm not going to be
exactly.
upset
And
at
this is the first
anybody.
time we've watched this movie. So, all right, Dan,
Give it to me, man.
tell us.
I love how
Tell us. Hit us right in the
promptly
gut.
you're like, "Hey, Danny, I'm just gonna kick you in front of this truck real fast." All right, let's go. All right, hit the ground running. First off, I like about like I like about the last 30 minutes of this movie.
Okay,
I
that's
think
understandable.
I think the beginning is for me, as you guys know on here, like I'm very frugal with my time, and I don't think this was a long movie. And I understand this was a lower budget film by nine. No, I'm not gonna get into it. He'll say that in a minute. I won't say, but it's a lower budget film, and this movie got made. And I have never made a movie, so I'm not going to shun somebody for making a movie. But I literally felt like this first hour of the movie, outside of one really important event, was like somebody just frittering their afternoon away. Like it just, I think a lot of it could have been cut down for what the eventual payoff for the film was. I mean, I didn't mind the characters. I thought the main girls, the two main girls, were likable people. Uh, I get that what the motivation they had to be there. It didn't feel unrealistic for her to be there in the situation she was in. Uh, None of that felt it. It just felt like a lot of it. Like the first hour was just like dragging, and like I don't feel it's building much for me. Like there's all this time, and then we get to the location. And once we're at the location, it's still a little slow, but once they're there for a little bit, then it kind of there's payoff to it. But I don't want to go into too much detail for everybody else here. But yeah, last 30 minutes of the movie I rather enjoyed. I like all that. I was like, okay, this shit's like there's some stuff going on here, but just the beginning is just like okay.
I
Like, what are
totally
we
get
doing?
that.
What are we doing, guys? And like I said, I know we all have different opinions. Like, I disagree with these guys a lot, whatever. But it's just the beginning of the movie I just thought was really boring for the most part. It's literally like just somebody going through their day-to-day life. And I'm like, cool, but like a little bit of that's fine, but not about an hour's worth practically. So that's what I've said. I don't know. I do recommend, like what he said, any movie you should probably give one watch to. This was not a horrible movie, but I probably would not watch this movie again personally. Your turn.
I agree with Dan for the most part. I like the very end. I almost feel like the ending was rushed. Like they spent all this time building up to what happened at the end, and I felt like they could have cut more out at the beginning to make the ending less.
Make it longer.
Yeah. Like, I wanted more killing.
So
I
instead
wanted-
of
I
having
wanted
some
more-
of that
Yeah.
lull moment in the beginning, kind of trim that down
Yeah.
and then add some more to the end of it.
Yeah,
get what
like
you're
when she's in the house, I do like the suspense that's building up because, she's looking out the window, which I personally hate looking out windows at night because I've seen too many movies where, hey, there's a face.
You see
So-
things you don't want to see.
Yeah, or your brain starts, saying, "Hey, there's something out there." So I don't to that part, like, it always gets me. So the suspense part building up, I like that, but I just felt like the ending was really, really rushed.
So less annoying roommate that has no payoff, more in the
Yes.
house with
Yeah.
creepy shit going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with that.
But yeah, definitely. I probably would watch it again because a lot of times when I'm taking notes, there's things that I miss.
Oh yeah.
So if I go back and watch it,
Yeah.
I can pick back up on that.
100%.
But-
Because there's a scene that I guess, or like a cameo in this movie that happens that I don't remember happening. Because I think I was taking a note and I looked up and it must have been a really quick scene because I was looking at the cast and I was like, oh, he shows up. He's in this movie? But I don't remember it. But because I was probably taking a note. That's why you always got to watch a movie at least twice, especially when we're doing movies that we're doing on the show, when we're taking notes and we're constantly looking down at our notebook to take the note. And there is like that split second thing that you might miss.
Yeah.
That's why I
I
try to
thought-
cover for her while she's taking notes.
I mean, that's nice. My wife watched about 75% of it. She passed out for a little bit, and then she was like, "Yeah, it was good for the things I watched." We have an almost 1-year-old, so it's hard. Watching movies with her it's hard.
Get sleep when you can, dude.
Exactly.
Been
My
there,
thoughts
done
on this
that.
movie. Really liked it. I really liked it. I was very surprised. Yes, it is very slow. It has it's a very slow burn movie, especially in the beginning. And I agree with Dan and Angela with the beginning. I think they could have trimmed some things down. The roommate, everything they have to do with the roommate, don't think it needed to be in there, other than the fact that the roommate gives her like the message that the guy called her. Other than that, like the whole thing with her, like she goes to the listen, we spoil the movie, whatever. There's no spoiler alert here. She goes back to her room, the socks on her room, the girl's getting boned. She leaves. That whole thing just could have been cut out. It really could have. Like everything with the roommate, other than the fact is like the roommate tells her that she got the message. I think they could have eliminated the roommate and just had Megan be in the movie more. I think that would probably been a better choice.
They should have
Other
been
than
roommates.
that, oh sorry, go. What were you saying?
Her and Megan, Samantha and Megan should have been roommates.
100%, totally agree. And to be honest, thought that was what it was, because you never see the roommate, and then you see Megan, you're like, oh, is she the roommate? And then you see the roommate,
Yeah.
like, nope, that's not her.
Well, when
But
she's
I-
banging on the door, she calls her Heather.
Oh, I didn't.
But she's not credited. But she's not credited as
as Heather.
having a name. But her real name is
Oh.
Heather. And I was like, did
Oh.
they slip
They
up
just
or something?
missed it in
Like,
the
or
editing.
did
They're
they-
like, she said her real name. Who cares? We're
Oh, well.
literally we don't. Who cares about this character? But I love the relationship between Megan and Sam. I think they have a really they actually feel like friends. Every time she talks, when Sam talks to Mr. Ullman, he is creepy as hell. And it's like, Sam, make a good decision in this movie. And she makes a lot of bad decisions in this movie. So many red flags that she just doesn't care about because she needs the money. The money for the rent.
I will say about Ullman, what's his name? Mr. Ullman, whatever his
Yep.
name is.
Yep.
Which is ironic. I had a friend in high school. I used to stay at his house. His last name was Ullman.
So he
I don't know
was,
if
so
that
fun
means-
fact before you continue, he was named after Mr. Ullman from The Shining, the guy who
Yes.
Oh.
gives Jack the job
told you
at
that.
the Overlook Hotel. So side note, sorry.
Here's what I know. No, the he's like, I know we're going to talk about this more in the movie. Ullman is awkward as hell. Is like just completely weird as fuck.
Yeah.
Trying to get her, but once she agrees to it, he seems pretty chill about it.
Yeah.
He's like,
and
I've already
even up
got her.
to
I
the-
got
Don't
her.
worry
He's like,
about it.
I'm
And to
good.
be honest, up to the end, even the last moment that those two characters are interacting, he's still like, please, like,
Yeah.
just understand, like, this is not what we fully wanted. We just, this isn't how we wanted all this to go down. He's super like trying to be friendly with her, even when everything is just gone to shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mr. Ullman, he is creepy the whole way. So many red flags put up, but Tom Newman, he is very good at playing that guy. Greta Gerwig, who plays Megan in this movie, she is now a big time director. She's a big time actress. Like, she is directing the new Barbie movie that's coming out next year. She did the newest Little Women. She did Lady Bird, which won some awards. She's huge now. Like, this was something that she did early in her career before she was a big name. She's actually married to another director, which is pretty wild. Jocelyn Donahue, never heard of her before. She really, even looking through her IMDb, don't know much about her.
Yeah, she
She
kind of
was
has a very
in,
low
I think,
profile.
the most notable role she was in, other than this, was probably Dr. Sleep, which I don't think was a very big role for her. I think she played she played Wendy. I think she was no, she wasn't Wendy.
Lucy.
She played like a very small role in Dr. Sleep, very forgettable.
Lucy.
Yeah, I think she was
Lucy,
like a drug addict. She was a character that was in it for about 10 seconds. Dee Wallace shows up in this movie. Elliot's mom from E.T. She was in Cujo.
Yep.
Many other horror movies. The Howling. Yeah, as you're wearing your Howling shirt. Yeah. I mean, she's a legend of the horror genre. Not in it for very long, which is very disappointing.
Cameo.
Yeah. And what's funny is that this movie takes place not very far from where I live. In the newspaper clipping, it says that her apartment is in West Springfield, which is actually where I have family that live there, which is only about 45 minutes from where I live. But it takes place in Connecticut, which is, I think, where it takes place is only about an hour away from where I live, which is cool. And it was actually filmed in Connecticut. So it was filmed where the movie technically took place, which is really cool. I just went into behind the scenes and I didn't even get my full synopsis. I didn't give my full thoughts on what I thought about this movie. Yeah, I liked it a lot. It was very slow in the beginning. I liked it from when she gets to the house and in the relationship with Megan and everything that happens. Even though it is slow, it's really eerie. From the moment she steps in that house, even when there's nothing happening, you're just uncomfortable. Yeah, and that's what the point of this movie is to just make you uncomfortable even when there's nothing going on. She's sitting there doing homework for 10 seconds and you're just like, somebody's there. Somebody's watching her. There is just, and every time she just explores parts of the house, you're just like, no, stop it. Stay downstairs, just lay low and wait for him to get home and get the hell out of there. Like,
yeah.
And just stayed there anyways. She didn't have a car. What if she needed to leave?
A lot of red flags, and Sam does not make a lot of good decisions in this movie.
No.
And ultimately it leads to poor choices. And it leads to unfortunate things. But that's my thought of this movie. I liked it. I will probably watch it again at some point. I really like the ambience, and to be honest, Ty West, I mean, with what he's done this year with X and Pearl, I can't wait to go through the rest of his filmography because I know he's got a few more films that he did before X and Pearl. And to be honest, this was like his first like big film. And it really wasn't that big. If you look at the budget and you look at how much money this movie made, it wasn't big for him. But this movie kind of put him on the map. And even, to be honest, I never heard of this movie until X and Pearl came. Like, I think when X came out and you found out about Ty West, and you're like, oh, let's look and see what he's done. You're like, oh, these all seem pretty interesting. Never heard of him. He's also an actor. He's acted in a bunch of movies that aren't his. I think he was in You're Next. Yeah. And fun fact, if Justin from Epic Film Guys is listening right now, you look like a young Ty West, by the way. I watched an interview with Ty West and Jocelyn Donahue for this movie, and I was like, damn, that looks like Justin from Epic Film Guys. Shout out, buddy.
Maybe a screen double.
Yes, 100%. All right. Those are my thoughts. Let's talk a little bit behind the scenes stuff. So, of course, this was written, edited, and directed by Ty West.
Doing all that heavy lifting.
Yeah,
Oh,
one
yeah.
man show, man.
Yep.
Starred Jocelyn Donahue as our title character, Sam. Tom Noonan, legend in the horror genre as Mr. Ullman. He was in Last Action Hero, which isn't technically horror, but he did play the Ripper, which is a horror character in that movie.
Scared the hell out of me as a kid, man. That
Yeah.
ending scene on the rooftop with him, oh, forget about it.
He was in Manhunter, which is the first rendition of Red Dragon, which is a Hannibal Lecter film.
Oh yeah.
He played the Tooth Fairy or Francis Dollarhide in that. He was Frankenstein's monster in the Monster Squad. It's pretty cool. He was in RoboCop 2. And he did some shows. He did Hell on Wheels for AMC, and he did 12 Monkeys for Sci-Fi. Not the movie, the show, of course. But yeah, he's a staple in the horror genre, and he's perfect because he's been in some episodes of the X-Files as well. Because he has that look to him. Mary, how do you pronounce her last name? Woronov? Is that
That's
sound
how
right?
I say it, Warrenov,
Okay,
yeah.
she plays Mrs. Ullman. As Dustin said earlier, she was in Night of the Comet, which I think was her big role. But she's done a bunch of low budget horror movies throughout her life. She did the 1975 Death Race 2000, which, if you've ever seen the Jason Statham Death Race, that's the original from 1975. Okay. She also did Dick Tracy in 1990. And she did Looney Tunes Back in Action. Had to shout that out because Brendan Fraser, our Lord and Savior.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. We don't talk shit about Brendan Fraser on this show.
I love Brendan.
We got Greta Gerwig, as we talked about before. Huge actress now and director. She played Megan, and she's fantastic in the very limited screen time she gets in this movie.
Yeah, gets it the worst.
We had AJ Bowen, as Victor Ullman, who was the son, who was the creepy guy throughout this movie. And the funny thing is, so this movie is about a satanic cult and during the satanic panic. And he went to go star in, I think, 2016 in a movie called Satanic Panic. So good on you, buddy.
Kidding.
Sticking with the genre.
Yeah.
Yep.
Keep it going. And of course, Dee Wallace stars as the landlady in the beginning of this movie. And it's very disappointing I was very excited when I saw her name in the credits. And then she was in it for about 3 seconds. And I was like, oh. But hey, she was in the movie. Dee Wallace, thank you for making that appearance. Also, Ty West, I guess, this is the thing that I missed clearly. So Ty West makes a cameo in this movie as a teacher. And I missed it because I don't remember that scene where I saw a teacher. Is anybody else? Dustin? Where was it?
The thing is like, I've heard that too, and I've watched this movie so many times, and I always try to look for it. I don't know if it's just because I'm just not paying attention, but I haven't seen it either. And I've seen this a lot. So I don't know if it was like a deleted scene somewhere or wherever it may be. But I always go back and try to rewatch it after I hear about that again, because I hear it a lot. And then I don't know if I just miss it or whatever it may be. But yeah, I don't recall.
All right, Ty West, until I see it, I don't believe you were in this movie.
I bet you know where it's at. It's on the fucking cutting room floor.
Yeah.
He's like, it's in there, I swear it's in there.
And also a cameo by Lena Dunham. She is a writer and an actor. She is most famous for writing the show Girls on HBO, I think it was. She is the voice of the 911 operator. She's big into writing. I think her and her sister were advisors or producers on this movie or something like that. I don't know. 100%. I want to shout out the cinematographer of this movie because it's awesome the way they shot this. Elliot Rocket. Yeah. There's nothing stating of anything else he's done, but like he is awesome as the cinematographer. The way that they shot this like a classic 80s horror movie. Just fantastic.
Yeah, he did X and the Innkeepers for.
Did he? Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on Wikipedia right now, and sometimes they don't tell you everything.
It's all good.
The music is done by Jeff Grace. Great job. I like the score, very just making it eerie for you, but also the not just his score, but the introduction of certain songs in this movie, I think fit very well. So shout out to them. This movie was released April 25th, 2009 at the Tribeca Film Festival, but not fully released to the United States until October 30th, 2009. It was strictly pretty much on demand, and they released it in limited theaters throughout the country. That's why I think out of its $900,000 budget, it only made $101,000, which is insane to think about. That is such a low amount of money. But when you look at like how they put this film out, you're like, oh, well, I'm not really surprised. When you put it on demand or you put it in theaters, very limited theaters, it's not going to make a lot of money.
I can understand back then, 2009, it being, a limited release because of film. But nowadays, it's just ridiculous. Like if they did a movie like that it just they can't make it available to everyone because it's all hard drives and digital downloads and shit at this point. Yeah. So, but I remember back then I can understand because film's expensive, and not everything was filmed back then. But I don't know.
2009 was also a crazy year for horror movies. So we've already talked about one that came out in 2009 with Orphan, which was a big hit. Jennifer's Body came out in 2009. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, which I know is probably one of the worst Halloween movies, but it still did a pretty decent job. We'll get to it, Dan. Don't spoil it.
Joking.
Listen, that's already in the past. When people listen to this, Friday the 13th remake came out in 2009. The Human Centipede, The Uninvited, The Haunting in Connecticut, Drag Me to Hell. So many horror movies. My Bloody Valentine, The Last House on the Left. So many movies. Horror movies specifically. I mean, Avatar came out in 2009, so there's another one
movie's scary as shit.
Everything out of the water. So like you look at all those movies, and some of those weren't great. Like there are movies that I named that aren't even remotely as good as this one that made more money than this. But it was just the fact that like that's what you have to go up against. So that's when studios are going, okay, I feel like the only way this is going to succeed is if we just put it on demand. Like let people just watch it from home because we feel like it's not going to be worth spending the money to put it in. Because these studios have to spend the money to then put it into the theaters before it is actually shown. So they're losing. Right. So they'd be losing even more money. So that's just the way it works. But I feel it probably would have flopped, which it did, even in the way that it was released. Because it wasn't a known director, and there wasn't a lot of Dee Wallace is a well-known actress, but like, to be honest, there's a lot of people who still don't know who Dee Wallace is, which is so sad.
Yeah, it is.
you gotta think too, this is on demand in 2009. It's not like now. So like that's a vastly different process.
Exactly. So yeah, it's understandable why it made the money it made. Ty West shot this on 16 millimeter film to make it look very late 70s, early 80s, like those classic horror movies from back in the day. The way that they do the credits is awesome. It's like everything about this movie feels very 80s. And I remember sitting down, turning this movie on. I was like, is this an old one? My wife literally was like, is this an old movie? I was like, no, this came out in 2009. She's like, oh, looks old. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, well, okay. Now I understand. He purposely did this. He wanted it to feel like an older movie. And I love it. I love the way that the title card shows up in the opening credits and even the closing credits. Fantastic.
I like the use of 16 millimeter and all that stuff in the movie. I think that's great. And I know some of the actual cinematography, not just the film or the way it was filmed or the projector and whatnot they used, or the film they used was the main thing. Sometimes they would hold on shots and stuff, and apparently this was like common in the 80s. But a lot of the movies that I watched, even from the 80s growing up, like I felt like this movie held on shots sometimes, like a really long time. Sometimes I'd like, this just seems like awkwardly long. Not even like, and like from an homage standpoint, it would like hold on a shot. I'm like, why are you still fucking holding here? Like I know it's probably.
If you watch some classic horror films, not like well-known horror films from the 80s, but like those lower budget ones, that's how it was. And even Ty West and his cinematographer, they instead of doing dolly shots to zoom in, they just zoomed in, like classic, where they would zoom in real close to their face. Nowadays, you would use a dolly to do that.
Well, the thing is another reason. It's not even just as like to make it look like an older film, and then maybe that's it. Because I've watched a lot of older, like lesser known, like horror films and stuff, but it just felt like a student film, like so bad when I was watching it. No offense, but it just felt like a student film, and I think that was another one of my gripes.
I mean, this is early in his career. I mean, I know he had some stuff behind him. This was early, low budget.
And I get what he was going for, but it was just something I myself didn't enjoy. But it's, you notice it more in early part of the movie. It's later in the movie. It's a lot more crisp.
Where it literally looks like he just took the camera and filmed it by himself with the actor.
Yeah,
I get it.
I mean, I thank you guys for giving it a chance. That's what it's really all about when you're doing shows like this, right?
Absolutely.
You always watch things that you're not expecting to either like or just really hate. And I like the honesty, and I feel like there's some shows that you listen to that sometimes they're afraid to be honest and to say the things they want people to say. So this is another reason why I love listening to you guys, is because of how everybody has different opinions and different takes and everything, and you're not afraid to say something. Yeah, and I think a lot of other shows need to definitely note that down. Say what you want. Who gives a fuck what anybody else says?
Exactly, Dustin. Like I said, no offense. I'm glad you're here, but for any other future guests, like I'm not going to kiss your ass if I don't like. I'm not going to be a dick about it. But if I don't like the show or things I don't like, I'm going to tell you what I don't like about the movie. So,
yeah, man,
that's kind of what we're here for, right?
Listen,
that's the point.
All Dan said in our group chat was, "This movie is better than Halloween Ends," and I said, "Okay, good. At least we're there. At least we're at some point here. Yeah, and have some positivity." For all the people who are like, I listened to their Halloween Ends review, those bastards.
Okay, well, let me throw on something else I did not mention earlier. Is I like a few of the kills. In fact, one in particular, I really fucking like how they did it. But I won't talk about that till we get to it.
Not a lot, though.
Not a lot.
But that's fine. The atmosphere of this movie, like I said earlier, like the thing I liked about this movie is just makes you uncomfortable. It just makes you uncomfortable the entire time. Like when she gets to that house, from the moment even when Megan's still there, you're just so uncomfortable. Because I would be uncomfortable legit being there. I'd be like, I want to go home. I don't want to be here. Why are we? I would have been Megan. When Megan leaves and she's like, you're crazy. What do you do? I understand she needs money. She needs to make her rent. And she, who expects the events that are going to happen in this movie?
Oh God,
nobody.
No.
But it's the red flags. Like, come on, man. Like, just let my dad give you the money for that rent. Let's not be here right now, okay?
Exactly, yeah.
Please.
Yeah, right.
Go be a stripper somewhere.
Hey, we didn't talk about that later.
This is Sam and the little girl.
End of the movie. End.
Okay.
The same thing I like talking about in these podcasts.
Yeah,
keep going.
There's not a lot of behind the scenes stuff with this movie. That was pretty much it. Just the 16 millimeter shots, the zooms, everything was done. There was really no sets. It was all done it was done in an actual house. Like everywhere is an actual location. So it's really cool. And Tom Noonan is actually from near that area, which was pretty cool. He got to film kind of near his hometown. But yeah, this movie is just made me uncomfortable. And I really want to watch it again to see if I could watch it without having to take notes, just to kind of pay attention for the full hour and a half. Another thing, hour and 35 minutes. Good job, movie. That's how movies should be. Fucking 2.5 hours shit. Jurassic
Hey, I do like my longer movies sometimes. Don't get me. Don't.
Once in a while, when they're good,
and they don't waste your fucking time.
The Batman.
Yeah,
that's a good 3-hour movie. Jurassic World Dominion didn't need to be 2 hours and 40 minutes.
No,
like Terrifier 2, 2 hours and 18 minutes, but it flies by.
Trust me. That was supposed to be close to like 3 hours at one point.
Yeah, they cut a lot. But,
we're gonna talk about that movie at some point.
It's really good. So don't.
Here's my question, real quick. Side note: do I need to watch Terrifier 1 to understand what's happening in Terrifier 2?
No, and I'll say that to everybody. Like, you don't really need to. It picks up. It's all essentially the same day. Picks up right at the end. So you don't really need to know a lot. They do kind of go back and show you some things that happened in the previous movie, and other characters talk about it. But no, you don't need to see the first one. But I do say you should watch it because it's on Screenbox.
Screenbox, another goddamn streaming service that I have to buy now.
Hey, they have a 30-day free
Dustin's
trial.
over here recommending Shudder to me in his earlier episodes. I'm like, well, I'm gonna finally get Shudder. I got Shudder. Been watching a lot of Shudder, and then he's like, now you got to get Screenbox, and I'm like,
It's worth it, man.
I already own every
Competition is
goddamn
good.
streaming service in this goddamn world.
You guys got to understand, competition is good. It's very, very good.
It is. It is.
I will probably.
It's just not good for my wallet.
Yeah.
It's only
30-day
$5,
free
right?
trial.
Was it
Hey,
$5
hey,
though? Was it like $5?
It's a little less than Shudder.
too
Yeah, it's
bad.
like
It's not
4
too bad.
something.
That's not bad.
But yeah, that's a little side note there. We're gonna get back to the House of the Devil. Are you guys? You guys want to add anything before we jump into the plot?
No, I'm ready to freaking dive right in, man.
Let's go. So we get a nice opening. I'm sorry. Did you guys want to say something? Did you just shake your
No,
head?
I
Don't
just-
shake your
I
head.
just-
Say no.
I
Sometimes
like
I'm
how
looking
this is-
right at me on the camera, and I don't know why I do that. I need to stop.
Why are you looking at you? Look at
I
everybody
don't
else.
know. I hate looking
Oh.
at myself.
I wouldn't want to look at me
Yeah,
either. So
When it's just us, I have you full screen, so I don't have to look at us.
Well, I have there's 3 people here, so
I know.
and
Well,
I'm
when it's
in the
more,
middle too,
yeah,
which is annoying. But
we could do the Brady Bunch thing.
yeah.
well, just bring more people in. I don't know
Fuck,
why I'm
people
here.
don't even know. Like you're.
I don't know
meant
why
you-
I'm here right now.
No.
All right.
I was gonna say I like how this is shot in it's like 18 days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
Yep.
short production schedule. I mean, it's an indie film. It's usually how it goes.
Yeah,
They're not going to give you a lot of time.
But I think it's cool that they
But it's
get
done
so
really
much
well.
done in
Oh,
in 18
absolutely.
days. And I guess the house was infested with ladybugs.
Yeah, I saw
Oh
that.
boy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I'm sure you can catch bugs on the film at some point.
Yummy. I had a ladybug land on me today.
I did too. I was like, it's oddly warm. We're like, oh, we're gonna hang
Oh,
out.
we've got
Yeah.
one.
Punch
It's
that
hanging around on our
motherfucker.
lights.
Didn't have spots on it. I was like, oh, that's sad.
So it's an omen.
Aw.
That's the ones that drill into your skin.
Not the omen. Not Damien. Damien, this is all for you, Damien. Oh, can't wait to talk about that movie someday. All right. This movie starts off with a little intro where it tells you about how the 80s were full of satanic cults and the satanic panic. You're like, oh boy, here we go. We know what this is about. And we get to see Dee Wallace right off the bat. You're like, yes, I saw she was in this movie, and here she is looking great as always. She is a realtor selling our main character, Sam, an apartment. And this was this one of those shots that you were talking about where it like focuses on her for a little too long, where she's staring out the window.
One of the ones I think of is a little bit later. Is when she comes back to her dorm. It's just like somebody set the camera at the end of the hallway, and you see her come upstairs,
Okay.
walk all the way up to the shot.
One thing
Like
I
this
wanna
could have
add-
been cut down a little bit, but go ahead.
One thing I want to add is like the opening shot of her in the house. You don't see anybody, and it's zooming through the house, and you already feel uneasy, and then you
Yeah.
realize, oh, okay, she's just meeting somebody to buy a house.
Yeah. It's
Like, they're
this
already
isn't
like
supposed
kind
to
of
be.
playing with
This isn't
No,
supposed to be uneasy, but it is.
you. Yeah.
But yeah, she's staring out the window. She is being sold this apartment, and everybody seems just very nice. She's low on cash though, so she can't give her down deposit, which you can tell that it's in the 80s because the down deposit's only $300, meaning this
Yes.
apartment only costs $300 a month.
Can I have that?
Seriously,
Right now?
can my mortgage be that? That would be great. So yeah, and Dee Wallace's character. So this is how I thought this movie was going to go. So Dee Wallace, she's like, oh, it's fine. You don't need to give the down payment. Just make sure I just want the first month's rent by Monday. I thought that she was going to be behind some stuff. I was like, she is being really nice right now, but later on, she's
Yeah.
going to be very evil. And then she just disappears and you never see her again in this movie. You're like, well, I guess not.
She comes and collects her like kidneys or something.
She's like, have you seen Sam? She was supposed to give me the rent check. Have you seen her? Oh yeah, she tried to. Okay, we're not going to talk about that till the end. So yeah, so you get this the way that this movie is shot. You get the whole thing where it's just her journey from the apartment back to her college, where it shows the title card, House of the Devil in the yellow font, and then it shows the classic credits where it's showing everybody who's in the movie. You know, Greta Gerwig as Megan. You're like, this is awesome.
Wait, can't wait to learn about Megan.
Yeah.
I'm like, who's Megan? I'm like, is this Megan?
Yeah,
right?
it says she was
that's the roommate, right?
Megan.
Yeah. And finally, all that happens. She gets back to her dorm, and her roommate's getting boned like really hard because she is moaning
Yeah,
loud.
she is. She's got the fucking cock sock on the door.
Yeah.
I love when she walks in the door. She's like, seriously? Come on. She's like, knocks on the door, and she doesn't even answer. Oh, love it. So Sam needs some money. So becoming a babysitter will do. She takes one of the little tags from the bulletin board. As soon as she goes to the phone, she calls the phone number, just gets an answering machine. She leaves a message, and she literally walks away for about 3 seconds, and the phone rings. And he gets this really creepy dude on the other end. He's just like, hey, are you interested? I really need someone. Could you come? Like, I'll meet you over by some building, which is the building that she hangs out at a little later. And
Student affairs.
Okay, I'm glad you got every detail because I pick. No, I'm not saying thank you because I don't pick up on those things. So yeah,
he's
gonna meet her
with his
outside the building.
condescending attitude.
Fuck you, Dan. Fuck you.
I'm just gonna push you out
I
of the way.
am never mean to Angela, just to you.
Oh, absolutely. Which I expect.
Love.
So yeah, so he calls. He's really creepy. He's gonna meet her. So she's like, okay, I gotta go back to. She's going back to her dorm, and then she's gonna go meet the guy. And she goes into the room, and it always is that floor shot of their dorm room where it just shows how nasty the roommate side of the room is. And then once it crosses the threshold to Sam's side, it's like completely clean. And you're like, God, this roommate's nasty. And you even get the creepy moment where she's sitting on the bed and she looks over and the boyfriend's like winking at her. And I'm like, I don't like it here.
Yeah.
I don't
And
like
that's why
it here.
Sam wants to get the hell out of there
Get
as
the
soon
fuck
as
out of there. Yeah. Oh, God. Fuck you, boyfriend. Greta Gerwig is here. That's her friend Megan. And they're having pizza at this pizzeria that really has bad pizza. And I was like, oh, the pizza doesn't look that bad. Maybe it's all acting because the pizza looked pretty good.
It has to
It
be.
looked really good.
But I feel it was a foreshadow for what happens later. I think that was the whole thing behind it. Because I think is this the same pizza shop that she calls? Or is it a different one?
I think it's supposed to be. We'll say because it's who shows up at the door later, so it's supposed to be
right. So yeah, Megan doesn't like the pizza. But she seems really cool. She seems like she's a really good friend to Sam. She's pretty much, Sam's telling her about the fact that she needs, a certain amount of money to pay her first month's rent. And, she took this babysitter job thing and Megan's just trying to help her out. She's like, I can call my dad and he can give you money. Like, you don't have to stress out about it. And she's like, no, I want to earn it on my own. I don't want to have somebody, help me out with that. She goes back to her room again. Her roommate sucks, to be honest. Her roommate literally is like, yeah, you had a message. I don't know when it happened. I don't know who it was, but there it is. I love the fact where she tells her it's on the desk and she's just like, where? Where is it? Because that's me. Yeah. Somebody tells me something's somewhere and it's not where they say, I'm that guy. I'm just like, where is it? What are you talking about? It's not there. What do you mean? So Sam, she gets emotional. She goes to the bathroom. She cries a little bit because, she only has a few days before she's got to get this money.
Yep.
So the guy, left a message in the room. She calls him. He immediately, I love it. Another creepy thing is when the answering machine picks up and then he immediately picks up after that when she starts to talk into the message. And he's like, oh, hey, sorry about that. Somebody wanted the job, but they backed out last second. So this is perfect. Could you come over tonight? And she's like, sure. And I was like, this is weird. But it's because he said, oh, I can give you $100. And she's like, I need that $100. I'm like, oh, no. Megan offers to give her a ride. Dan, what's the car she drives?
It's like an old 240 coupe or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Which there's a great fucking line in this movie once we get to the house, which I will say in a second. So earlier when they're at the restaurant or the diner or whatever, or the pizzeria, they talk about the fact of like the guy doesn't call, or the guy stood Sam up. So Megan's like, oh, you should go around the campus and tear down all of the flyers for the babysitter job just to fuck with them because no one will call. And she's like, nah, that's too much. I don't want to be like that. Sam doesn't like the confrontation. She doesn't want to be that type of person, but Megan is. So on the way to the house, she hands her all the flyers. She's like, well, that no wonder why he called me. So Megan, you're the cause of this, by the way.
Yeah, she really is.
Megan asked to join at the house, and she's like, at first she's like, no, I'm just gonna do it by myself. And she's like, listen, you don't have to give me any money, just let me hang out with you. And she's like, fine. And then we get the shot of the cemetery as they drive by, and you're like, oh, I wonder where this is gonna go. And this is when they pull into the driveway of the house, and Megan goes, hey yo, check it, Volvo, safest car on the road.
Yeah, it was their shtick.
Hilarious.
Sorry, I forgot it's a sedan, not a coupe. I said it wrong. The trailer's going here.
Yeah, because that's the sedan, and then the red one was a
wagon.
Wagon. Yeah,
that's the way to have it.
So we meet Vincent Ullman, or Mr. Ullman, played by Tom Noonan. He is the creepy as hell man who was on the other line.
Mm-hmm.
And at first you're like, he looks a little old to have a child. Because you don't know what's going on. And he just keeps bringing the creep factor. They're like sitting on the couch and he's talking about things. He's got his cane. He's just like sitting there. And the fact that Sam talks about having Megan stay there with her, and he's kind of like, no, that's not a good idea. Hey, Sam, can I talk to you alone in the other rooms? Like, I just met you, man. This is weird. I should go. But no, that's not what Sam does. That's what I would have done. So they go into the other room and they talk about the fact of like, I can only afford to pay one of you, not the both of you. And Sam's like, oh, that's not a problem. She's just going to hang out. And he's like, yeah, I don't. Or no, she's like, no, she's going to leave. And that's when he drops the freaking ball of, oh yeah, I don't have a kid. This is for my mother-in-law. And Sam's like, yeah, I'm good. I don't think that's good. And he's like, what if I pay you more? And she's like, I like how he gets up to 300 and she just like, no, 400. That's what I need. And he's like, fine.
That's a chunk of money in 83, dude.
Yeah, it is.
Times were tough for jobs in the early 80s in the United States.
Absolutely. So
I also kind of think at this point that he's kind of putting on a show, because obviously we know what happens at the end, right? So obviously money, would that really matter if he was giving her that amount of money? You know what I mean? So I think
exactly.
He's acting that way to, manipulate her, to make her want to stay there, and that sucks.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Oh yeah. We also get the shot of Megan in the living room eating the candy in the bowl. Just because she's
old people candy.
Of the one she puts in her mouth and she doesn't like it, so she spits it out the napkin.
I was for certain that something was going to happen with the candy.
Right. I was like, is there a razor blade in one of those?
I thought maybe it was drugged or something.
Something else gets drugged.
Yeah.
So after the whole thing where when Sam finally agrees to do the job, we then cut to Megan being really upset about Sam taking the job. And I was like, you're a smart one, Megan, but you're going to make a really stupid decision in about fucking 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Because she's upset. She's like, there's so many red flags here. And all you care about is getting the money when I can literally help you get the money. Like you don't have to do this. And she's like, it's fine. It's all I have to do is sit in this house until midnight. And then you come pick me up by 12:30 and I get $400.
Yep.
And Megan's like, whatever, just be here. Megan she pulls off into the fucking cemetery to smoke. I'm like, you can't smoke and drive? I've seen it happen many times.
Not in the 80s.
I guess not. She pulls over into the cemetery and some random dude pops up with a lighter. And I would have been like, gotta go. And said she talks to the guy. Oh, Megan. She talks to this dude to the point where he asks her, "Are you not the babysitter?" And she goes, "No." And he just whips out a revolver and blows her fucking face off.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
like,
just
that moment, I'm not
Literally.
joking. That moment made me jump out of my seat. I was like, what the? I looked, my wife was actually watching. She was like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
It was
You're not
not,
expecting that at all.
holy shit.
like it's cool because you know something's gonna happen, but like that just fucking happens. There's
So
no
immediate.
suspense. It's just
I
Like,
And
think
it wasn't just a
direct
simple
buildup.
shot to the head. It wasn't like a simple, like, you know, like most movies where it's just like, you know, like in actuality, if you shot someone with that gun,
yeah.
it's not going to just explode. Like you shoved
Yeah,
a grenade in her mouth.
oh no.
I wrote in
Oh,
my
and-
notes. I said she ain't coming back at 12:30.
No,
Yeah.
no.
A
So
little bit
yeah,
late.
and the guy hops in the car and kind of like guides it to wherever the hell he's going.
Gets
I'm
the
like,
cigarette. Gets the
holy
cigarette from her.
Oh my! I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
what happened? What is happening?
He's just so nonchalant about it. It's just like, oh, okay.
Like, I know she was
Cigarette.
parking there also because she didn't want to drive all the way home, but like,
Yeah.
Oh,
why not
okay.
just stay in the driveway and just take a nap?
I mean, it probably still would have happened. regardless,
Probably.
'cause that dude was
But
part
at
of the
least
whole thing.
Sam
No,
would
I
have
get what
heard,
you're saying.
heard it, you know.
Yeah.
Sam would have heard that gunshot.
Yeah.
Boy. Alman
scene.
gives so Alban,
Yeah.
yes, fantastic. Alman gives the instructions for the night, tells her about Mother, and you know that she, you know, she's old, but she can do things on her own. Just you don't have to do much unless it's an emergency. I like the fact that he tells her about the pizza place on the fridge, and then he repeats it, and he's like, "Oh, I already told you that, didn't I?" Oh,
Yeah, don't forget about the pizza.
yeah. Like at first you're like, oh, is he just, you know, he's an older guy. Maybe he's going through some shit and forget. I mean, I do the same thing. And then you're like, some darker things are behind that statement. So after he does all this, he goes upstairs and he's like, he's getting reprimanded by somebody that you don't hear. He's just talking to somebody about the fact of like, you know, I did it. I made sure that it was, you know, it was done. She seems great. All that stuff, but you don't hear who he's talking to because it's just him.
Yeah.
Sam meets Vivian Ullman, Mrs. Ullman, and she's just as creepy as her husband. And she does that creepy thing where she sits next to her and she's telling her how pretty she is and oh, the boys must love you. And she's like, I guess so.
Yeah.
Thanks. She's like, you're too young to be in college. Well, I'm a sophomore. I've heard that before. Like, it's just a really awkward conversation. Oh. Yeah. And then Mr. Ullman comes back downstairs and they leave. And he reminds her once again, don't forget about the pizza.
Yes.
Yeah, another thing too is I think when Mr. Ullman goes upstairs, I think he's going to get his wife, and then Miss Ullman comes through the downstairs,
Right.
and Sam's like, "But he said he was getting you upstairs, so how are you?" Oh, I was grabbing something from the basement. So I guess another thing is just like there's something fishy going
Yeah,
on.
she was grabbing her furs. She said,
Yeah.
oh, I went down to the basement to grab one of my furs. And you're like, oh, okay. And then
Why would
later
you
you're
keep
like,
these in
oh,
Why would you
Yeah.
keep those in the basement?
yeah, what? It's musty down there.
Yes.
Well,
It's not a
Desert,
good
they
place
want-
for furs.
Yeah.
and cold. Sorry.
So after they leave, she calls Megan. No answer. I love Megan's answering machine message. She goes, hello? Nah, not there. You're like, you bitch. I would have fell for that too. I would have like, hey, what's going on? And you'd be
100%.
like, and you're like, you
I have
son of a
I have
bitch.
done that. I had friends in high school that did that. And I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
I had a couple friends that did that stuff too, and every single time I fell for it, I'm like, son of a bitch. I've called you 100 times. Why do I keep doing this?
Yeah.
And I literally put calls Megan, but no answer. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Right.
The pizza guy seems sus. I was like, nah, I'm good. Can we find somewhere else to order?
Yeah.
He's like, pizza. What can I get you? Extra anchovies? She's like, nah, I get some pepperoni. And she asked for a small. They don't have a small. And then it's a medium and large. She gets a medium for $8. I just bought pizza yesterday. I bought a large pizza and 12 wings, 12 wings for $36.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous, man. It is.
Where
Fuck
did
inflation.
you buy pizza from?
I don't know. I'm hitting buttons over here. I'm just so angry about inflation. Fuck inflation. How much are pepperonis?
Gosh.
Everything's up.
God damn it. Oh, so this is when Sam starts to explore the house. She finds the pool room, which is cool. I was like, I would have hung out in there the whole fucking night.
Yep.
Just shooting some pool, listening to my tunes on my Walkman.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she plays the piano. Or the organ, I guess.
The harpsichord.
Harpsichord. Thank you, Angela.
Yes.
I had to ask her what it was too. I was like, "What kind of fucking piano is that?" She's like, "It's a harpsichord, you savage." I was like, "All right."
Well,
I didn't say.
Did she say it like
Don't
this? She
fuck-
said, it's a harpsichord, Daniel.
It's a harpsichord.
Yes. I gotta say it nasally. And
Get out of here, you fucking peasant.
I'm going to go play my harpsichord, Daniel. Please get me some mints.
Absolutely.
What the hell? Oh, Jesus. Yeah, she wanders upstairs. She finds Mr. Ullman's office. She puts on those goofy ass glasses. Oh yeah, Mr. Ullman's office. She puts on the weird ass. This was that moment where you're like, some people are gonna go, oh man, this is dragging. But for me, I was like, this is just eerie. Like I'm just like, there's not much going on in this for a good duration of this, but I'm just so uncomfortable the whole time because I'm like, why do you have to go upstairs? This house is terrifying.
Why are
You're
you just
expecting
going through?
something. That's the one thing is you're always expecting something to
It's
be there,
awful.
but there isn't. It's
See, here's
just think.
Oh, sorry, Dust. The thing for me is like I'm watching this. I'm like, why are you going through people's shit? Leave their stuff alone. Like, don't. I'd be pissed if somebody went through my stuff. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
You're bored. You know,
yeah.
he was not doing it.
It's the 80s. There wasn't cell phones. There wasn't video. I mean, there was video games, but you think that these guys have a Nintendo just hanging around? Oh no, it would have been an Atari at the time. Would have been an Atari.
Yeah, Atari, Coleco, and television.
Yeah, but
They don't
there's no
have
way
any
these
of
people
that.
have any of that. Or I would have been doing that. I mean, she could have watched TV. They had a horror special going on, and she turned it off. What are you doing,
dude? That fucking like plaque of a remote.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Dude, Night of the Living Dead is on, and you're turning it off.
I know, like,
and they turn on to the scene where everyone is screaming too, which was great.
It's the end of the movie. I was like, just might as well finish it out.
Right.
Fuck
Yeah, there's probably something good happening after. So the only reason that movie is used is because it was free use.
Yeah,
public domain.
Public domain.
Gotta love it.
Not anymore. Dude. I don't think it is anymore.
No, I don't think it is anymore either.
But yeah, I just put in my notes that I love the way that this movie is shot. There's the moment where she opens the basement and it just zooms in on her face for like a good 5 seconds of her just going, "Yeah, I'm good." Continues on.
I like the basement.
Yeah, yep. I'm in a basement right now, so
are we.
Fuck you. I'm flipping off.
We just
all
don't
the
go
ghosts
out
in the
there.
basement.
We don't go
or
out
all the demon, or all the demon worshippers here, devil worshippers. She puts in her Walkman, and we get a perfect fucking song choice. One thing leads to another, which I love this song. I grew up listening to the song as a kid, and to hear it during this whole scene of her, doing her little dancing throughout the house, which she does herself, which is great. And it's perfect. I think it's a perfect song because that's what the point is. Like, one thing leads to another in this movie.
It's true.
For one, stop walking around this fucking house all the time. Like, just sit on the couch, watch some TV until midnight, and get the fuck out of there.
Take a nap.
Exactly.
Come
I've
on.
done that.
No, anything.
100%.
You only got a couple hours.
Oh, Lord. So during this whole thing, she breaks a vase or a vase or however the hell people say it. And she sweeps that up and she notices a closet. She opens up the closet. She finds a picture of, I guess, the prior owners or the current owners or whoever these people are. Because she notices the car.
Yeah, you notice it's all in a garbage bag.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be
Pictures are just like-
previous owners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she notices she notices the car though, and that's what kind of tips her into like, something seems fishy here. She also finds the furs. That was kind of the first thing. She sees the furs. She's like, well, she went to the basement to find these. Why are these here? And that's when she starts to get a little paranoid. She goes outside to investigate the car, but the car's gone because the Ullmans took it.
Mm-hmm.
She's getting super paranoid. She goes into the kitchen, grabs herself a knife. And of course, like nothing's happening. And then she goes to the bathroom, and that's when she first hears the noise. I'm like, can you just at least let her take a piss? Like before all the craziness happens. Like, I'd be so mad. Be like, of all time, you could have made a noise while I'm in the middle of a pee. Damn.
Yeah, most vulnerable, man.
I can't stand when movies though make it where I can hear people peeing. I'm like, this is unnecessary. We don't need to hear this. I guess that's
We
better
all
than
know
like
what it
somebody
sounds
taking a
like.
shit and you just hear like
Yes. Yes.
like American Pie.
Yes, like American Pie. I'm glad that was the connection we made between these two films.
Oh Lord. So she goes back upstairs to investigate the noises, and that's when you get the scene where she is about to go into a room, but she ends up not going in, and then you see the other side of the room where there's a body sprawled inside of a pentagram, and then there's a bunch of other dead bodies kind of all around. You're like, that must be the people who own this place. This is scary. And this is when I literally went, where's the fucking pizza guy? I feel like it's been way longer than 30 minutes. And as soon as I thought that and wrote that in my notes, the doorbell rang for the pizza. I was like, wow, perfect timing. She runs down, she opens up the door, literally rips the pizza out of the guy's hand. So she never sees the guy. She just rips the pizza out of his hand and then closes both the doors and then kind of just, sits down with the pizza kind of clutched in her arms.
Dude, it's going to roll. It's going to fall. And then, like, all your toppings.
No wonder the pizza was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, proper pizza handling etiquette, people. There's a video. We all watched it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So but then you see the guy that delivered the pizza, and it's the same guy who killed Megan. You're like, oh shit. Yeah. You're like, fuck this guy. And Megan then runs to the phone. She tries to call Megan again. And then she tries to call the number that Mr. Ullman gave her for the venue they were going to be at. Doesn't exist. And then she calls 911 kind of out of just paranoia, and then hangs up on it. And then they call back. And you're like, yeah, just this is only for emergencies, okay?
Yeah.
I think they're supposed to send a car out regardless.
Yeah, I guess not in the 80s. That's why.
Yeah, I don't know what it was like back in the 80s. I'm not sure.
Dan, that's why all the serial killers were existing back then, because they didn't do that. I was like,
fair enough.
That's fine. So yeah, she gets a couple slices of pizza. She watches a little bit of Night of the Living Dead. And the pizza doesn't taste good. I'm like, the pizza looks fine. But then you figure out why, and you're like, okay, that's understandable. So she throws it out. I'm like, oh man, she gave that dude a 20 for that pizza for it to not be good. That sucks. I guess it's not her money. So,
well, I was thinking, so it's obviously they provided a number for her to call for a pizza, right?
Right.
So, do you think the reason why they're like, hey, we only have a medium or whatever is just all the money he had on him to get a pizza and bring it there?
Could be.
He's like, I can only make like...
Yeah, because he would have had to buy it, right?
Yeah, he would have had to buy it.
But why would that matter if he got a small? He would have been able to afford a small.
Maybe he's like, just in case, we'll just make sure it's a medium.
Sorry, we only have a small and medium. We don't have a large. That would have been...
Or he already had it.
Yeah, that's true.
Grind up his ether tablets and put it on top. Like, I'll profit from this.
So
it's just a thought, dude. God, what the fuck you want from me, Parker?
What the fuck did I say?
Nothing. You're good.
I'm sorry, Dan, if I sound like I'm being rude, but I'm just trying to get back to the goddamn plot.
Yeah.
I'd like to veer off and talk about streaming services again.
Oh, God. So she wanders back upstairs for some fucking reason. Stop going up there.
Wasn't the noise? Does she
yeah,
hear the
she
noise
keeps
again?
hearing the thumping up
The
there.
drain.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, stop.
Yeah. She hears something in the sink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Phantom's,
Why
yeah.
would
It's
It's
Ben
Ben
Affleck's in the sink. No, just kidding.
who gives a
just-
shit if you hear
she just-
something in the sink? Just go sit down.
She just
Fuck.
puts.
Have you
Puts her-
ever seen it?
Yeah.
Shit happens in the sink.
She puts up her ear to this. She puts her ear up to the sink. It's like, hey, you want to see something cool? Like, what the fuck is this? Leave streamer. Why are you in my sink?
Oh,
Dude, my other movie.
there.
Listen, I told you the other movie I have to suggest along those lines has something to do with sinks as well. So we'll
good.
get a third one.
So funny. She goes up into the bathroom and she notices there's a lot of hair in this fucking tub. Why? I don't know, but it should be, I want to get the fuck out of here. And she just continues to walk towards the weird noises. Stop doing this, people. Make
Stop
better
being white.
decisions. Yes, please stop being a stupid white person.
Thank you, please.
God damn. Oh, she goes to pull the cord for the light, and it blows like the entire house, the circuits for the entire house. And this is when she's like hiding in the staircase, I guess between the basement and the first floor. I don't know where the hell she's at right now, but all the lights go up.
The attic.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
gonna say
So
she
she's
went
at
to
the
the
very
attic.
like at the stairs.
Oh,
to the
yeah.
attic from the top floor.
Oh, okay. So yeah, she's there and she starts to kind of like, I guess, have a panic attack, or she's starting to get a little woozy. She's about to faint, and she's trying to run away because you get the creepy image of the door opening and then the fingers coming to kind of like it's going to open the door, and she gets to the hallway and then passes out. And this is when you get that like the flashing where it flashes the red moon, then it flashes a candle, yeah, and then it flashes Sam being tied up in the middle of a pentagram, and oh look, guess who's back? The Ullmans. And guess what? That creepy dude's with them because he's their son. Oh no.
Well, did we surmise that the pizza was drugged?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
So the
assuming
reason
so,
that she
since
gets to
she's
that point is
woozy.
because of the drug. Yeah, the pizza was drugged by the fucking Ullman son there.
She notices it doesn't taste good. She tastes whatever was on it, but
Yeah.
it was enough to.
It's odd she didn't eat very much. They must have like
No.
really concentrated.
He must have
Whatever it was.
freaking doused that thing in drugs.
Parmesan cheese. Like, no, it's
He shredded
not Parmesan
like
cheese.
a salt shaker.
Also, like,
No.
Back and looking and like thinking of that pizza, those slices were huge.
Yeah.
That was literally
For
4
medium?
slices. Like they were
Yeah.
huge slices. Like
She took that
for
knife and was just like, chopping them into slices. Like,
It's
damn,
like, wait a minute,
so
this
savage.
isn't delivery. This is DiGiorno's.
Ew.
Like, what the
Gross.
fuck? Obscure reference.
So looks like Megan was right the whole time. This was not a good place to be. And what the fuck is that thing? That fucking creature of the night. Just it looks like a fucking it looks like a life-size bat. Just
It's a female.
Get
it's
away
a
from me.
female version of a Hunchback.
What did we say?
terrifying.
We were talking. It looks like
Terrifying.
the goat thing from Pan's Labyrinth.
It does. The Fawn.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Another movie I'd like to cover on this. Never done foreign film. Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
we
you
have.
get we've done a foreign film?
Yeah, we did Shin Godzilla.
That's right, we did. So she gets finger painting on her stomach. I'm like, that's not a good place. Did you ask her permission to finger paint on her stomach? It's weird. And somehow that impregnates her with the Antichrist. And you're like, I hate this.
Exactly. This is like finger painting with Blippi.
Oh, no.
That's exactly why we don't.
Imagine they hired that actor to be that character. You're
He doesn't do it anymore.
You tell the kids, you're like, guess
Yeah.
what, guys? That's Blippi right there. Look at him. It's
They-
terrifying. Give him
They
nightmares.
Oh.
replaced him.
He's different. He's not the same guy.
No. Did he do something wrong?
No, he's having a baby.
Oh, okay. That's understandable.
Dude, no, I want that to happen now. You've willed this into existence. I want a
Blippi-
petition to where the dude that plays Blippi is a serial killer
He's
or
in a
like a
horror
killer in
movie
a horror
now?
movie. Please.
That's so good.
Please.
Oh, Lord.
Horror Blippi.
Yeah, make it happen. Oh my god, dude.
So the demon creature thing like cuts its hand to pour the blood into the fucking skull of a deer or whatever the hell it is, and then pour it into Sam's mouth. Or no, she like paint on her forehead beforehand
Yeah, she
too.
paints on her forehead.
I'm like, oh
It's
my
like
god.
It's like a dick. Like, dumbass.
It's like that. What do you do with permanent marker when you're in high school or college?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, you wake up with a penis on his head.
Oh, it's so kill party.
And yeah, it's just disgusting. Like pouring the blood in her mouth, and she's just like
so
trying to spit it
thick.
out. Oh, it's so thick, so thick, not the thick you want.
That's the thick everybody wants.
So she then attacks like everybody. She gets up and is able to like stand up for herself. Mr. Ullman gets stabbed. The son gets a fucking thumb through the eyeball.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah,
that was real good.
She slips and falls in the blood, and she sees Megan's non-existent face. I'm like, oh no! And she knew exactly who it was. She's like, Megan. I'm like, how did you know it was Megan? There's no face.
It's not so much here or here, but right here.
It was the eyes. Like, how were those still there?
Oh, speaking of that, the eye gouge was really well. I thought it was really well done and convincing. It wasn't like some movies where it's like they do like, oh, you clearly tell it's like a fake eye. Like, what?
Right.
The eye. You know, it's done. Do you think Megan was just brought there for the blood, right? Like that was all she was used for?
For one, she was killed a long time ago. How is there still that much blood in her? Unreal.
Dude's like, oh, get the Tupperware out. We'll catch some of this shit.
He was stored in a barrel.
Probably. Well, they've got a whole room full of other bodies upstairs.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. And this fucking son, he sucks.
He's a piece of
shit. They all
dude.
suck, to be honest. And she ends up stabbing him, right?
Yeah.
He brings a gun and she slits his throat. And I was like, that's what you get for bringing a gun to a knife fight, you stupid bitch.
There. Oh, look that Terminator with Thomas Jane. You ever seen that? Not Terminator. Punisher.
Okay.
Sorry. You ever seen that movie?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, dude, where he's like shoots the knife and like gets that guy in the neck. That's what I thought of.
Well, so he does hit her. He shoots her in the shoulder.
Yeah.
And then she gets up and slits his
shot,
throat.
dude.
Yeah, it's great. Mrs. Ullman. Sorry. Mrs. Ullman discovers her son. She's angry. She talks about the fact that Sam is kind of possessed because she keeps seeing flashes of that demon thing that poured its blood in her mouth.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Ullman talks about the fact of like, you know, she in some sort of weird satanic code that she's impregnated with the Antichrist, pretty much. And she talks to Satan, which I guess you look up to talk to Satan. No. He's down there. Look down.
Satan. Talk to Satan! Sorry.
I guess we're going to have to talk about that movie at some point soon.
Eventually.
And she just takes off her wig, hairdo, now looking so great.
No,
so
not at all.
You find out that that's her hair that was in the tub. Is she going through stuff? Like, has she got something going on?
But she had gray hair, though. Like, underneath the...
I don't know.
It was like little gray stragglers.
She didn't have much hair, to be honest.
No.
I don't know.
But she's talking to Satan out the door or out the window, and then gets a knife to the back and dies. Yeah, she does. All these characters are terrible. Sam keeps seeing flashes of the demon, and Vincent, I get, somewhat chases her to the cemetery. And he tries to reason with her in the cemetery, like, listen, like, everything's gonna be fine. Like, this was the whole point. We needed to have somebody for during this eclipse, and you know, everything's gonna be okay. Like, he's trying to sound not super creepy, but he's really goddamn creepy. And she's like, well, if that's what's gonna happen, I'm just gonna kill myself. And
it's like,
you think she does.
You're like, Samantha, you drank the Kool-Aid. You're part of this now.
She puts the gun up. Yeah, and then she puts the gun up to her hand. He's like, ah! And she does
final words before she pulls the trigger. It's like, it was sugar-free, asshole.
I don't know. So yeah, she chooses to off herself. And then the next scene, it goes, ha ha, gotcha, bitch. She ain't dead. And you're like, how?
Her friend's face got control deleted, and hers.
So the reasoning behind it was the fact that the baby, the Antichrist or like Satan prevented it from happening, prevented her
Yeah.
from actually dying from the injury. But you get the really creepy moment where she's in a coma. The nurse walks up to her. She's like, "You're going to be okay. And so will this, and both of you." And you're like, "Oh
Yeah.
no." And then end
Yep.
credits. And you're like,
Yep.
fuck.
I like how it just ended. It's like
Yeah.
over.
It was no, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just over. And you're like,
That's her life now.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Now you're going to be reenacting Rosemary's Baby.
I mean, that very much though, what this movie, I feel like Ty West drew inspiration from Rosemary's Baby for this
Oh, for
movie. Because Rosemary's Baby is literally, a woman getting impregnated by Satan, which is ultimately what happens at the end. So definitely.
I also like the fact that it doesn't lead you like you just think like, oh, it's about satanic panic, and it's like this is just gonna be a group of crazy fucking zealots that are just killing people, but then you actually like it's like there's shit actually going on. It's not that you
Yeah.
drank the Kool-Aid. It's just like it's actual like evil powers and shit. So
Mhm.
Right. Well, that's it. That's The House of the Devil by Ty West. Do we have any final thoughts about this movie before we move on to our end of show rigmarole?
let Dustin go. Say
Dustin.
thanks, Dustin.
One thing I want to say is like every time Mr. Ullman's on screen, I feel like he really does want to do the right thing. Like he comes off nice compared to everybody else, but I also have a feeling that maybe this family is not like really veteran in all this because they all are very clumsy. They aren't really putting themselves together all that well, and Mr. Ullman stumbling over his words all the time and repeating things. And the son is just out and about doing his own thing. I don't know, just the family, like obviously they took over the house. We saw them that the bodies were upstairs and whatnot, and they got Sam where they wanted her, but it felt clumsy. I felt like this is maybe like just on the first handful of times they've tried to do something like this.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I don't know if you guys are also getting that kind of vibe, especially with Mr. Ullman, how he feels like he's very awkward, and it's mainly because he is trying to manipulate Sam to, do this, but it also feels like he's not very versed in what he's doing.
Yeah, it definitely didn't seem like they were seasoned veterans in this ritual sacrifice.
So, oh, go ahead, Parker. You keep
No,
going.
I'm done. Go ahead.
This is gonna sound negative as shit coming from me. He sounds to me like this may be his previous work, but he sounds to be like just a piece of shit, manipulative, like pastor, is what he reminds me of. Like,
Very much.
because he's trying to be nice and comforting and draw him like he's actually a piece of shit. Or maybe like, and I agree, he does not seem as well versed in this as he should be, but I just think he's just really good at putting up a front. And I'm not saying all pastors are like this. But he reminds me of, because I have known at least one in my existence that was a piece of shit, and he's really good at being up front with like nice in front of people. And yeah, he was a piece of shit. So anyhow, that's just the vibe that I got from him. That may not be the case. But yeah, I agree. They do not seem like they're not like the A team of satanic ritual.
We do this every year. Or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, guys, this is the second year. Last year was a little rough.
Yeah.
We're sorting out the
shoot the
kinks
right
here, we're doing our things.
Yeah, you're not supposed to shoot the girl before she gets in the house. You gotta wait for her to get into the fucking house.
Just make sure you put at least triple the amount of drugs you put on the pizza from last year.
Right.
So we know it kicks in a little bit quicker this time.
And Junior, so you know, Flintstones chewable vitamins are not gonna knock anybody out. So it's a little stronger than that.
Oh man.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, one more thing. Oh, go ahead, Dustin. You go. Yours is far more important.
I just want the house. Like, that's all I want to say. I
That's
want
a
the
really
house.
awesome
Beautiful.
house.
House is
Terrifying
awesome.
house, but
Well, I don't want the terrifying part of it. I just want the look of the outside of the house.
You get what you get.
It's true. It's true. Names. I've been thinking about this. 4 names for House of the Devil.
That's right. Our new segment of every show when we talk about a movie, Dan always has to find out what would be the poor names with Dan.
Yeah, I have not looked
That's a
this
new
up.
version. I don't know why I was Southern in that version. Whatever.
Here
we go.
Just for the
It
South.
could be different every time. I don't care. I was thinking about this because House of the Devil. I think it just kind of hands you the name because it could be the House of the Dicks, House of the Dick. It could be Whores of the Devil, or it could just be the Whores of the Dick.
There we go.
That's all I got. It's not clever. It's not funny, really, but that's just the names that came up. Like I was like last time, I was like, this will never work.
No, I'm sure there's a porn parody of this movie out.
And, absolutely.
Go
Porn parody of
They
everything.
named it.
I haven't Googled it, but I couldn't find one for Sleepy Hollow. Stupid.
Oh Lord! Before we go into our end of show rigmarole here, we have a couple comments from people on Twitter. We asked people's thoughts. Very kind of nothing too in detail. Mostly just people saying they love the movie. We got 2 Ps on a Pod, an amazing podcast that I listen to. They do a lot of countdown top 5 stuff on their show, and it's fantastic. Dude, I am absolutely obsessed. Love this movie, and I guess he made a tribute to like Final Girls on the YouTube, which is the song that was used in this movie. And the final girl from this movie is one of the final girls he pays tribute to. So make sure to check out Gerald and his awesome show, 2 Ps on a Pod, on all the podcast services. Another great podcast that I listened to, Shocking Things, that I didn't like it the first time I saw it and really enjoyed it the second viewing. So if you go into this movie, you don't like it the first time, you always got to at least give it a second chance. Halloween Ends, maybe not. But maybe
I thought we were going to stop talking about that.
Nah, listen, people already already listened to the review, so who cares if I talk about it in this?
Yeah,
I'm not going to go into I'm not going to say too much.
Fair.
Listen, people, we recorded the podcast before we recorded our Halloween Ends review. Podcast in the Woods said, it's Ty West, so I'm going to love it. He's my favorite director working today, and I can't wait to watch X and Pearl. I know X, I think, just showed up on Prime and on Showtime, so I'll actually be able to watch it. And then Pearl, I'll wait until it gets on digital or whatever to check that out as well. But yeah, those are very few, but I appreciate everybody who commented on the movie. Dustin, you got anything else you would like to add to this movie before we jump into the end?
I would just say, just give it a try. Like Dan, I know you came out not liking it. Angela, you're kind of mixed there. Brett, you like it, I like it. So there's a lot of different opinions on this, and I just think it's fun. I really do. I love the vibes it gives off. I love how eerie it is. And yeah, the last act is crazy. And the beginning, there's a lot of build up, but I think it's there intentionally, and I think trimming anything down probably wouldn't have made it any better. Because you really need to see Sam go through all this, not even heartache, just her being really annoyed and her wanting to do her own thing and be her own woman and go out there and get her own apartment so she can get out, not to deal with her stupid roommate anymore that we all hate. So I think the movie, it's great, and it's definitely, Ty West's first, or one of his first, and I was seeing him now and how he is as a writer and a director, and how he can really put stories together. I mean, come on, he has a fucking trilogy out right now. He has another one coming out that's taking place after X. So he's got 3 movies in the same universe. So he's out there. He's doing something right. So just give it a chance. And then go watch The Innkeepers, because that's also a really good movie by Ty West.
Very cool.
And I'm good.
You guys got anything?
Yeah, look, I'll reiterate kind of what Dustin said. I know it's a little, in my opinion, a little slow in the beginning, but the ending is very good. Like the last 30, 35 minutes or so. It's good. It's good. It's a very good show.
Alrighty. Well, I enjoyed it. This was a fun watch. This was a fun movie to talk about. I always get a little nervous when we get movies that I'm like, are we gonna be able to are we gonna be able to incorporate our usual like comedy into the episode? But I'm glad we did, because there are some movies out there I'm like, I don't know if we can cover this, because it's just gonna be that generic, boring plot breakdown where there's like, I feel bad about bringing in the comedic elements that we usually do every week on the show. But I'm glad we were able to do it because, listen, these are fucking movies. Like, you can bring comedy to anything, just as long as you respect certain things. But yeah, I enjoyed this movie a lot. Ty West, this is an early Ty West. The fact that I like this movie and this was early in Ty West's career, I'm very much looking forward to watching his other stuff, like as you said, The Innkeepers and X and Pearl, and I know there's some other movies that he's done. Don't watch Cabin Fever 2. I've heard that's terrible. But I've heard great things about him, so I'm very excited and to jump into his early work at the beginning. I'm cool with that. All right, guys, let's talk about what we're going to be doing next week because Dustin from the Barrens Hideout podcast is going to be leaving us, but we're going to be bringing in another Dustin from a different podcast called the Flicks and Friends podcast, where we're going to be talking about a movie called Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon from 2006, a mockumentary film that I have watched. I know that Dead Meat covered it on their Kill Count. And I watched it. Yes, I did. I was already spoiled. I know what this movie is, but I'm still excited to actually sit down and watch this movie in full. And again, it's really fun to have the guests pick out the movies, especially if it's a movie I've never seen or the entire panel hasn't seen. So I'm very excited to bring another Dustin onto the show to talk about this movie and keep talking about horror, because this, I believe, will be our final episode of our Spooktober, series. We're still going to be talking about horror. Don't you worry. Horror is not going to be leaving just because October is going to be ending. Maybe we'll do one more. We'll do some more stuff, but we got a lot more guests also ahead of us, which I'm very excited. We're definitely going to bring this Dustin back onto the show again. Because thank you. I mean, great job. Thank you, sir. Great job being a guest. It's always nerve-wracking bringing a guest, but with somebody who does it as much as we do and so natural, and just to have this conversation without being, having the nerves of like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go. And the fact that I've already done a podcast with you, so it's
oh yeah, man.
It was a blast having you here to talk about this movie. So thank you so much. Dustin, tell us where everybody can find you and your wonderful show.
All right. Well, thank you guys for having me on. And next time we'll make sure Dean can make it so we can get his amazing UK British accent on here, and we can just listen to him talk the whole time and indulge on that. 'Cause that's what I do. I like listening to him talk. But you can find us everywhere on Spotify, Good Pods, YouTube. We have Patreon where we release one day early for $1, which is our audio and video formats. And also, if you listen to us on Spotify, you can also get the audio and video formats on there. If I think it's also $1. But everywhere else, you can listen to us on YouTube. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple, Anchor, anywhere. We are everywhere, and we love doing it. And thank you guys for having me on and representing some more horror in the world.
All of Dustin's links will be down in the description, of course. Dan and Angela, all your links are down in the description too. We don't need to go into that since it's usually the same thing every week, right? Don't forget to check out our Halloween Ends review that we did earlier in the week. We haven't recorded at this moment, but it's out as soon as you start listening to this. And at some point, I'm not going to say when, because usually I have them out on Thursdays, but because of my work schedule, Chucky season 2 episode 3's review will be as soon as I can get it recorded. So it'll be hopefully before you listen to this, but if it's after, I apologize. That's the thing about working overnights and the show ends at 10 o'clock. Can't record at work. I could. Yeah. It just won't be very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure to check all that stuff out. Very excited for next week to have Dustin from Flicks and Friends over here to talk about another film that I have never seen before. So much fun stuff. We're having a blast here. And also just thank you all for all the wonderful, for the love that you guys show the show with all the downloads and the YouTube, views and all that stuff. Thank you so much. It means the world to us, and it's the reason why we keep doing it. The love that you guys share. And then of course, like people like Dustin, who show all the love for the show, as a fellow podcaster himself and doing the great things he's doing over there. And also the fact that I have amazing co-hosts right down there with Dan and Angela who take the, they use their free time to come on here and talk about movies with me.
Yeah.
Why? I still don't know.
Because it's
Listen,
it's fun.
I talk out of my ass 99% of the time, so I'll just do it on camera. So,
But it's greatly appreciated. Thank you
oh
all
no,
so
I
much.
love being here. Thank you, sir.
I can't believe that we're inching closer to 80 episodes. We're like, it's crazy just every week when we announce what episode we're on. It's like, how have we gotten this far? I don't understand what is going on. But until next time, everybody. Oh, actually, before we go, we're Dissect That Film on everything. I mean, if you're listening to us, you know where we are. Come on.
They don't.
YouTube,
I don't even
all
know.
the podcast services. We're on Twitter, Instagram, all at Dissect That Film. That's where you're going to find us. But until next time, I am your host, Brett Parker. That is Dan and Angela of DNA Gaming. And that is our wonderful guest, Dustin of the Barrens Hideout podcast. This has been the Dissect That Film podcast, episode 76. We'll see you all again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Guys.